good friend and favorite DJ, the only DJ my friend Elvis would approve of, Jimmy Deal.
Wayne Newton right there, and Billy the Spa Guy is my guest tonight, along with Tom Payton, my co-host. Great to have you, Billy. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Congratulations on the reopening of the Tiger Man Karate Studio and Dojo. It's been a couple of years, but it's back, right?
It is back open and ready for people to come check it out. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you got some new artifacts and special items on display, right? A lot of new stuff. It's new and improved, right, Billy?
Absolutely. And it's a lot of stuff. You know, it's kind of the vision that I had for it the first time around. But the first time, what my objective was is to get it done and get it open. So just do kind of a basic museum, if you will, to get the ball rolling, and then to improve it as we went. This time I had an opportunity to go ahead and do those improvements before opening, to go ahead and get it done, you know, to get it ready. And so I pulled out all the stops.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I mean, you know, I've never been to that actual studio. I've been to Kong Ree Studio, the one in
1911 Poplar.
Yep. I've been to that studio, and also
the original studio.
The original studio, and I've been to the one in Germantown, which is pretty wild. The one that he was at the last studio. Yeah. He was such a great guy, and he's been on my show. I interviewed him actually. Always fun to be around him. So it's so cool that you reopened. There's a lot of history in that studio where you are.
Absolutely. If you see this photo of Elvis over my shoulder right here, I'm going to lean over so you can see there's a blue star on the carpet. Can you see that blue star?
Yes. We can see it right there. Yep.
Where Elvis is standing in that photograph is where the blue star is at on the carpet.
Wow.
That photograph happened right there. He was there teaching classes and they were filming for part of the New American Gladiators movie that Elvis envisioned. So they filmed here, and then they filmed over at TKI, which is in Midtown, the one that's upstairs.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Patrick Wren, he's been on the show many times.
Yep. Patrick Wren, and I know Patrick very well, and legend himself. Absolutely.
Great guy. So yeah, I mean, it's so great that you reopened the studio, and it's not far from Graceland, right?
It's about a mile from Graceland, as the crow flies. And it's an easy drive from Graceland. You would leave Graceland and make a left turn and a right turn, and you're on our street. It's that simple.
Oh, wow. So, yeah. Now, is there any buses or any shuttles that go from Graceland to you at all?
Not yet. No, we've just opened. And I'm not even open during Elvis Week 2025. Of course, I'm going to be open starting tomorrow. I'll be open till Sunday the 17th every day. Wow. But because we're just starting out and I don't have staff, I'm driving back and forth from Nashville here to be here for it to be open on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I have hired one staff member, but the rest of my crew for this particular Elvis Week is going to be friends that are coming in from all over to volunteer and help. And so it's good to have good friends and people that are willing to give their time, you know, for something like this.
Right. It's going to be a busy week for you for sure. I know Ginger Alden's going to be there the 14th, right? So excited about that. Yep. I was just with her in Canada. Went to see her in Toronto, man. Oh, she's so great, so personable, fun to be around. So many great stories, so many great questions we asked her. She's fantastic. So you're going to have a great time with her there, I'm sure.
And I could see what Elvis saw in her. In my opinion, she's different than a lot of, and nothing wrong with any of the ladies. I'm not saying that, but there's something special about her that I can sense. Very much like my wife was special to me when I found her. You know, there was just something about her that made me want to make her my wife, and we've been married now for 38 years.
Wow. Yeah. And so it's true. Elvis was going to marry her, right? It was, they were engaged.
Well, they were definitely engaged. So there's people that say that they were never going to get married, but the answer is we'll never know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
So the way I present it is, if you're saying that Elvis was not going to marry her, that's speculation. That's over here.
Right.
If you're looking at the evidence, which is going to be over here, he asked her to marry him. There was a proposal. That's not up for debate. There was witnesses to that proposal. In fact, Charlie Hodge actually gave them a backgammon set, or gave it to Ginger as a engagement present, and she still has the backgammon set. So that's wow. Second, he had a ring made for her and took the diamond out of the TCB ring, which is 11.5 carat diamond. I held that diamond ring about 2 months ago, and very few people have ever seen it. It's been locked away in a safe deposit box all these years, and she still has it. She brought it, and I got to hold it and look at it.
Wow.
When you see the TCB ring at Graceland now, it is the right ring, but it is a fake diamond in it, and they tell you that. This,
right. Wow.
Zirconium. It's not a secret, but the diamond that was from that ring is in her ring. And then the third thing, if you just want to look at the basics, is that the day that Elvis passed, she was still in his bed. Yeah. So, she was upstairs in the house. So if you just take those three things at face value, which is the only way you can take it, you have to say that she was engaged to be married to Elvis Presley. And I'll give you an analogy that I like to use, and that is if a guy bought a ranch, he bought a horse and he bought a saddle, the next day he died, and his family started saying, "Oh, no way he was going to ride that horse." What would you say to him?
Yeah, of course. It's, a lot of that craziness went on, which was horrible.
Yeah. And I just think she was easy to pick on because she was 20 years old. She didn't come out front and center and start defending herself. In fact, she waited for years and years and years and years and just let it go on. Yeah. To the point where she became somewhat of a fall guy, if you will. And that's my opinion, but I just think she was easy to point at because she did not defend herself, and she was 20 years old, Yeah,
of course. Yeah, she's got a great book, right?
Absolutely. And the way I read the book, I read it, reading it, and then the last time I listened to it on Audible. Oh. So she has a version where she actually reads the book.
Oh, how cool is that?
So
wow.
It is very, very cool. So you're hearing the story from her, and it's very well done and very telling. And I heard something in the book as I was listening to the book this time around. I would stop and make notes because I knew that I would be interviewing her here at the Tiger Man Karate Dojo and Museum. And so I started making notes just so I had an outline of things that I was going to ask her. And so a lot of the things that I wrote down from the book are going to be questions that I ask. And I'm probably not going to get to all the questions because we don't have hours and hours and hours.
Sure. Right.
But I've got some core questions, and none of it is going to be gotcha questions. That's not what I do. I mean, you've watched my videos. I don't do sensational videos. I'm about the history and the truth. I just want to get down, what happened. That's what I want to get to. And so a lot of the things with her are going to be unraveling details, if you will, of certain things. So because you've got to ask the people before they're gone. Not, she's a young lady, a young woman, still. But I want to get on record a lot of these things that I've never had an opportunity to ask her before.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I know Tom Payton has a question for you.
Yeah, Billy. Okay. Now, Billy, you're known as the spa guy.
Yes.
What led you? That's because obviously your family built pools and you built spas. What led you to become this really great historian on Elvis Presley?
Well, so let's go back to why I'm called Spa Guy. So I own a hot tub company in Nashville called the Spa Guy. And I was making YouTube videos about hot tub repairs, moves, even repos. You can find me doing hot tub repos. And the channel grew to about 3,500 subscribers, which is not, it's not terrible, but it wasn't moving forward. And of course, only X amount of people are ever going to tune in to hot tub related stuff,
Right.
So over a period of time, my daughter, I started trying. Let me say this. I started trying other things. So I started doing things that I found interesting and putting them on the channel, and it got a little more traction, and I was getting more subscribers and that kind of stuff. And then my daughter got married, and her husband was in medical school. He was starting medical school here in Memphis, so they moved here with UP. He's now an anesthesiologist. He's graduated, so he's about to finish his first year of being an anesthesiologist full time. And so he went to school a long, long time. He's 31. He went to school for 26 years.
Right.
And so he earned the ability to be an anesthesiologist. But anyway, during that time when he first started, of course, he was studying. My wife and my daughter would go shopping. So I would find myself in Memphis with nothing to do. And I would have my camera with me that I would do my hot tub stuff with and my drone. And one weekend, so we were coming here pretty often. And prior to that, I was a tourist when I came to Memphis solely. I never just came to Memphis. I was always coming here to go do something.
Right.
So I found myself here, and I thought, I'm going to ride over to Graceland. I wonder what's down the street past Graceland. You know, I'd never been past the Days Inn that's there on the corner. And so I drove down there and saw the mall and kind of drove around in the houses behind Graceland and all that. And I saw Vernon's house, and I knew Vernon's house was there on Dolan right beside Graceland. But I saw it and I thought, I bet a lot of people don't know that house is right there. It's literally, you can walk around the corner from Elvis's house and see Vernon's house.
Yeah.
So I flew my drone and I made a video about the house being there, and I put it on my channel. And the first month I got 30,000 views.
Oh,
So, okay, I might be on to something here. So the next video, so then I started going, okay, well, what am I going to make a video about? So I found the photo of Elvis and in a jumpsuit with Linda behind him and Billy Smith and Dick Grove at the Cadillac dealership. Elvis wearing house shoes. And I just thought, that's such an odd picture. What in the world is that? I wonder if I could find where that happened at. So I was able to figure out where it happened at, and I went to that. And I told the story about him walking, and it still looked just like it did in the photograph. Sadly, it's all been torn down and gone now.
Yeah.
But I have a block from that wall in the museum in my shrapnel cabinet.
So cool.
And so, you know, just pieces of stories. But it was one of those things where I started with that story. And by the way, that was my second video. I believe it was my second.
Right.
And I got most of it wrong, because I was speculating why Elvis was at the Cadillac dealership wearing a jumpsuit. That just seems so odd to me. So I speculated that he was dropping a car off and they were going to jump in a car, picking a car up, and they were going to go to the airport, and they were going to go to Johnson City, Tennessee, which is the only concert that he did with that belt and jumpsuit combination.
Right. I know the picture you're talking about. Yeah.
But at the time, I did not know. I call it geographic forensics. At the time, I did not know that the airport was actually much closer to Graceland than it was to the Cadillac dealership. So my hypothesis didn't work. But I was trying. You know, I was getting the ball rolling. So over a period of time, I was able to talk to Linda, which is in the photograph. I was able to talk to Billy Smith, which is in the photograph, Dick Grove, which is in the photograph, and figure out what Elvis was actually doing. And he was there to give away Cadillacs that day.
Wow.
Linda told me that he said, they're expecting Elvis, so I'm going to give them Elvis, which to him was a jumpsuit.
That's great.
That's so awesome. And one of the great items you have there at the Tiger Man Karate Studio and Dojo is the ambulance, the actual ambulance that transported Elvis from Graceland to Baptist Memorial Hospital on August 16th, 1977. How did you go about getting that ambulance?
Well, that's a great question. And first, I will say, if you look over my shoulder where this photo is at, the ambulance is literally on the other side of that wall.
Oh, wow.
So, and so in the museum, it's sitting over there. So the answer is, there was a guy that I interviewed. His name was Mac McQueen. And Mac reached out to me through email many, 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 many years ago. In fact, Mac died about 4 months ago. And he was a good friend and a good guy. He was 92. But when he reached out to me, he even told me at that time that he had congestive heart failure and he didn't think he would live much longer. And I'm going to say that was 2018 or I'm going to say it was 2017 or 2016. So it was a long time ago. So he still lived a long time. But he had worked at Baptist Hospital, and he worked on the machines. So he worked on the defib machines and all the different equipment that's in the hospital.
Right.
And what happened was, he told me that from his vantage point, when he was in his workshop working on equipment, he could see the emergency room from his window. He had a window. And he said that day what caught his attention was, generally the ambulance is pulled up, turned the lights and sirens off, they would pull in and they would back up. He said that day that ambulance came in, lights and sirens blaring, pulled straight up like that, put it in park before it came to a stop. He said it screeched to a halt. And the guys jumped out and snatched the gurney out. And what really got his attention was the person on the gurney. He had no idea it was Elvis. The person on the gurney's legs were uncovered and their face was covered up, which he thought was very, very, very odd. And so he mentioned to his supervisor what he had seen. So him and the supervisor, they had a tunnel that went from that building over to Baptist. So he told me, went through the tunnel and they came up in the emergency department and they stood out in the hallway while they were working on Elvis. He still didn't know it was Elvis, but he could hear them defibbing it. So they would go clear, defib. And he counted from my memory, I think he told me 6 times. And so he finally kind of just stood there for a little bit and gave up and started walking back through the tunnel. And he encountered a nurse that was crying. And he asked her, what in the world's wrong? And she said, Elvis has died. So then it hit him. That was Elvis. So he went back over there after they moved Elvis from the emergency room, from that particular room. He marked the defib paddles. And he actually cut the defib paddles around the wires have these a little sleeve, and he actually cut a V in it. And he also got the serial numbers off of the machine. And it took him 16 years to get the defib machine from the hospital because they were going to throw it in the dumpster. But he had followed it for 16 years through the system. Wow. And he had it, and he wanted me to come see it. So I went and saw it and did a video with him. And if you want to see it, look for Spa Guy and defib would probably pull it up, or Mac, or Mac. And so when I was filming with him, I mentioned to him that I'd been looking for the ambulance. You know, I wish I knew where it was. And he said, I saw it. And I was like, what do you mean you saw it? He said, yeah, I saw it in a backyard and they had car parts stored in the back of it. I said, really, do you remember where that's at? And he showed me a photograph of it that he had taken in the backyard of this house. So that day I got him, and he couldn't remember the name. He actually told me Phillips was the last name, but he told me the right road. It was on Oak Street in Bartlett, Tennessee.
Right.
And he told me Phillips. So what I did was went to Google and found the closest thing, which was Phelps. So the next time I go to Memphis, of course, I don't live in Memphis, so I'm driving back and forth. So the next time I go to Memphis, I go to that home, and I have a little Spa Guy YouTube card that I give out. Right. I wrote my phone number on it. I don't put my phone number on it, by the way. I put my email. So if I pass it out, if somebody wants to contact me, they can email me. Sure. But anyway, so I go to the door, and it's a lady. And I said, ma'am, was Elvis's ambulance here at your house? She said, yes, it was. But it's now at my husband's brother's house. And I said, well, I would sure love to see it. Could you tell me where that's at? And she said, well, my husband's brother's passed away. But if you'll give me your information, I'll pass it on to his wife and get her to call you. And I said, that'd be great. So I left there thinking, man, I'm getting a phone call today. I'm finding the ambulance today. Well, I didn't get a phone call. So the next time I came to Memphis, I stopped through there again. And it's kind of out of the way. It's not it's not something you're going to drive by to come to Graceland. Okay. Right. So I would make my way through there though. And the next time it was the man, it was her husband. Told him the same thing. He said, well, you know, I'll give the number to my sister-in-law and I'll let you know. And that went on for years. And every time I would knock on the door, they would tell me, they'd give me another clue. They wouldn't come out and say, this is where she lives, but they told me, well, she lives in this neighborhood. So, they would do stuff like that. So when they told me the name of the neighborhood, I went immediately back to my truck and wrote it down, of course. And I waited until the winter when all the leaves were off the trees, and I flew my drone over the neighborhood trying to find it. All kinds of stuff trying to find it. So in 41 years to the day, August the 16th, 2018, was the first day that my good friend Globetrotting with Trey, another YouTuber, filmed with me that day. That was the very first day we ever filmed together. And I was doing a story about Elvis dropping Rex Mansfield off at a house in Bartlett, that there's photographs of Elvis with Rex with the limousine at this house in Bartlett. So I knew Rex personally, and I asked Rex where that house was, if he could remember it. He told me the road. He didn't know the number of the house, but he knew the road, and he said it's not real long, so if you drive it, you'll find it. So I had a whole agenda of things I was going to film for that week while I was here for Elvis Week. I did not even put the ambulance on that agenda because I hate to say it, I'd pretty much given up on it. Right. It seemed to be a dead end. Nothing I did got me to that house. So anyway, we go and we find the house on that road, and we go knock on the door. The guy worked for FedEx, and I said, "Are you an Elvis fan?" He said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Did you know Elvis was at your house?" He said, "No, I didn't. How do you know?" And I showed him photographs of Elvis at his house.
Wow.
Love to do that kind of stuff. And so we filmed that whole story. And when we were done, I said, Trey, that house, the Oak Street, is like 3 blocks from here.
Right.
So let's go over and knock on the door. I'm gonna go. Let's go try again. So I went and knocked on the door. Trey was standing behind me. I had my business card like I always did. And I said, ma'am, I know you're tired of seeing me. And I said, but it is of the utmost importance that I see that ambulance. She said, let me stop you. She said, you kept coming and kept giving us the cards, and they stacked up on our desk. There was a stack of them. And one day I looked at that stack and went, what is this? What does this guy want? And I put the card down, and I pulled you up on YouTube, and I watched a couple of your videos, and now I understand what you're doing. Here's her name, her address, and her phone number. So Trey and I drove straight to that house that day. And of course, I didn't know how the lady would react. You know, her husband had passed away.
Right.
So when we pull up, the way we always do it is I get my footage, everything I need to tell a story, and then I'll knock on the door. So I got everything I needed and then went and knocked on the door. And it turned out she was very, very nice and very gracious. And she, you know, I said, may we go back there and look at it? And she said, it's way out in the backyard. It was a giant yard, way out in the backyard with trees growing up around it. So we went out there and looked at it and filmed. And I came back up and I talked to her. And I said, you know, that thing needs to be in a museum. And she said, yeah, it does. And I said, does that mean it's for sale? And she said, yeah, it is. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about that. So we negotiated over about a week, and I bought it and went and picked it up, and I kept it at my hot tub shop in Nashville, or north of Nashville, in Hendersonville and Gallatin area from 2018 until I put it in here in 2021. And the reason I didn't tell anybody I had it was I didn't want people to know I had it until there was a place for them to see it. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, and so we have a place for you to come see it now, but that's how all that came about. Wow. But I want to tell you a little bit about divine providence in that whole story. So the divine providence, the thing that amazes me about all these things is that Mac told me that the way he found out about it was he had a neighbor that lived across the street that was a fireman. Right. And when he got the defib paddles, he told the fireman, he walked across the street and said, hey, I got something I want you to come see. So he came over and was looking at the defib paddles. And he just, as an aside, said, man, I wish I knew where that ambulance was. He said, I know where it's at. My friend bought it. Oh. So it's divine, you know, it's all these things that happen. I could tell you 20 stories about this dojo that are God-ordained things that happened that lined it up, where if one thing didn't happen, we don't know where the ambulance is, you know, so it's all those kinds of things. So I believe that what you see today was meant to be ordained by God. That's my opinion.
Wow. Absolutely. Does the ambulance run? What kind of shape is it in?
No, it hasn't run in forever. When I got it, they had taken the breather cover off. It's got a 454 Chevy. It's a 75 Chevy Cheyenne C350 or I think it's a C35 is what they called it back then. Right. But they had taken the breather cover off, you know, the old school with the filter in it, and put it in the back of the ambulance. So because of the rain, the way the hood was, it rained in the engine. I drained about 20 gallons of water out of the engine.
Wow.
Man. Yeah. Yeah, so the back of the ambulance, there's pretty much nothing in it, right? I mean, a stretcher, does he still have the stretcher or no?
There's no stretcher in it, but all of the, you remember that old Dynamo thing that you would make the little sticky things with the letters on it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All those everything is marked in there, but the gurney is gone. The stand for the seat is missing. The seat is missing, right. But all of the markings and everything is in there. And the box is pretty much the way it was, because it's almost indestructible. The truck itself is pretty rusty. But, you know, one of the things that I hope to accomplish with all of this is I think we lose sight of Elvis being a human being. Mm-hmm. I think what we see is this giant icon of a man that seems almost unreal, like Bigfoot.
Exactly.
And I decided not to restore the ambulance. The way it is, I cleaned it. But the way it is the way it was after sitting outside for 27 years.
Yeah, sure.
And I think it tells a story about a human being that passed away, sadly, But I want to humanize Elvis. I think that's important in his story because I think his humanity has kind of been lost in all of this.
Right.
So that's an important piece of it for me. That's what I think is important.
And you can still see it says Memphis Fire Department right on the door, right? A little bit.
All that's there. And there's a local Memphis Fire Department has a museum, the Memphis Fire Museum. And the guy's name is Bill Edelman. He's the curator of the Memphis Fire Museum. Bill started at the fire department in 1977. Let's see, June, July, August. He started in October of 77. So 2 months after Elvis was in that ambulance. And he followed that ambulance all the way through the whole system, just kind of like Mac did with the defib machine. And it's a kind of an interesting happenstance and we're talking about another divine intervention thing. So where Elvis, you're familiar with Lauderdale Court, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Where Elvis lived for 4 years. That's the longest that they lived anywhere other than Graceland. And unless you count Chino Canyon, but I'm talking about Tennessee.
Right.
So what ended up happening is where fire station number 1 was built was in the Triangle, which was where Elvis would play as a child when they lived at Lauderdale Court. You've probably read about them talking about the Triangle.
Yes.
The fire department was in the Triangle.
Oh,
so
wow.
the ambulance was retired in 1987. It was run for 10 more years. It was put in that fire station in the Triangle that Elvis played at as a kid. And so I just thought that was very interesting that it ended up a place that Elvis was as a child, and it stayed in that fire department, and they disabled the steering so nobody could steal it for 4 years while they were trying to decide what to do with it. So in 91, a lady that was the one that would make these decisions didn't see any value in an Elvis ambulance and decided to auction it off. And Bill Edelman was at the auction. I have a photo in the case that Bill took in 1991 of the ambulance at the auction. So what ended up happening is kind of another divine intervention thing. Mr. Phelps that purchased the ambulance he was a policeman, and a friend of his that was a fireman called him and said, "Hey, that ambulance is coming through the auction today, and the only people that are buying today are crushing. If you want it, you better get down there and get it." So that's another piece. If that didn't happen, we don't have it. Yeah,
of course. I know Tom has a story he wants to ask you about, right?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Bill. I read somewhere or saw something that when that ambulance was racing to get Elvis to the hospital, that had it clipped the music note, which is on the gate at Graceland. Is there truth to that?
I don't think so. In my opinion, that's a myth. Now, one of the first things
I knew you would know. Yeah,
watch my video. If you look at it, I'm not saying that it's not possible. I just think that that's a made up thing. And when I started looking at the construction of the ambulance as opposed to the construction of the gate, because I did look into that, because if you go back and watch the original video, I talk about that story in the video because I read the same thing. But after I got the ambulance and really went and looked at how the gates were constructed, there's literally no way for that to happen. And I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the gates like this, they're closed and you're standing out here. Y'all seen it before. It's got the music notes on the outside.
Yeah.
Right. It opens like this. It's pushed all the way back, and it's actually back at an angle. So unless they just push through, but the gate was already open. Yeah. In fact, I have the 911 audio, and it wasn't 911 in 77, but I have the audio. So when you come to the museum, part of the tour is hearing Joe Esposito make the call. So the gates were open. You know, he told him, come up to the house, the gates will be open, and all that's on the 911 audio.
Crazy. Wow. It's amazing. You have all this unbelievable stuff, which is amazing. You know,
and
also
one more thing, Bill Edelman came here and confirmed that was the ambulance, by the way. I kind of left that out. I started talking too much. But the number of the ambulance is F479, which would normally be on the maintenance paperwork from the city of Memphis. The maintenance paperwork doesn't say F479. It says Elvis unit on it.
So
after Elvis was on it, they took the F479 off and put Elvis unit in its place.
Wow.
Another great item you have coming this week for Elvis Week, actually, is the Jetstar. Tell us about the Jetstar and the history behind it.
Okay. Well, you know, that history is kind of up in the air. I'll tell you what I think to be true. But remember what I told you. My first video about Elvis coming through the parking lot at the Cadillac place was not accurate, but it was what I thought was accurate at the moment. So I'll tell you what I do know. What I do know is the bill of sale has Elvis Presley's name, 3764 Elvis Presley Boulevard. That's not up for debate. That airplane was sold to Elvis Presley. It was purchased originally. It was leased for a year by who we don't know. Then Morton Salt Company purchased it in 1963, and they owned it up till 77 when Elvis bought it. So he bought it from Morton Salt Corporate. Oh, wow. So what I'm gathering is there was a sheik that bought the airplane from Elvis. That sheik was a friend of Elvis's. In fact, if it's the same guy, and I'm trying to put together a timeline for all this. If it's the same guy, and I think it is, that guy tried to trade Elvis a 747 for the Lisa Marie.
Oh, really? Wow.
No, he was going to give him a bigger plane for the Lisa Marie and do an even up trade because he was a huge Elvis fan. He just wanted Elvis stuff. But he's the one that bought the airplane from what I can find.
Amazing. And it's all been restored. I mean, beautifully painted, because I saw it when they first found it. It was horrible looking at that.
Yeah,
point.
well, that's a vinyl wrap on the outside. But the interior of it was done in the 70s or late 70s, early 80s. Right. And it still is pristine. It's literally a time capsule from the 70s. And I get to drive it, not tomorrow, but the next day I'll go, Trey and he'll co-pilot with me, and it's a diesel pusher. It's on a Freightliner chassis, like a motorhome chassis. And I've got to drive it from the airport to here and set it up and get it ready for people too. So we'll film all of that. And I'm excited about it. I'm scared at the same time because it's giant, Yeah. And you set up real high and you can't see beside you. So there's cameras so you can see what's down because you're so high up.
Right.
And but it's an incredible machine. Jimmy Webb, which is Jimmy's World, the airplane guy on YouTube, he's the one that purchased it and did this with it, and it's just incredible. And the way it works, how well it works, is unbelievable. The speedometer and all that stuff from the diesel pusher is in the dash, and it looks like it was made like that. And in the airplane, it's crazy. And you steer with the real airplane yoke, just the original.
Wow.
And the pedals, your rudder pedals, are gas and brake, just like a real, So it looks like a real airplane when you're sitting inside of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. How long will it be on display at the Tiger Man Karate Studio?
It will be here from the way we have it set up. It'll be here Monday to Friday, which is the 10th through the 15th. But it will probably be here Sunday. I've got somewhere that I'm taking it on Saturday, and then Saturday afternoon I'm going to bring it here. So it'll be here Saturday night. So we'll have it Sunday through Friday, and then Jimmy will come pick it up on Friday afternoon.
It's going to be an amazing Elvis week. I mean, you have some really cool stuff there in addition to Graceland and all that they have. I mean, wow, so much going on in Memphis right now. Just a great thing, man, to have that airplane back and also the ambulance. And not only do you have Elvis stuff on display there, you have Jerry Lee Lewis, right? Eddie Rabbitt. Tell us about some of those other celebrity artifacts that you have.
Okay, yeah, we've got a lot of Jerry Lee stuff. In fact, Carrie, that was married to Jerry Lee for 21 years, her daughter works here. Her name is Star. And her name is Star Lee Lewis. And she's not Jerry's daughter, but her mother was married to Jerry the longest of anyone. Right. And so we have a lot of Carrie's items here. We have Jerry's gi and his belt when he practiced karate. But what's interesting is Star is actually a first-degree black belt in Passeru, which is what we teach in this dojo. So she can give karate lessons and that kind of stuff. And we're putting together a little thing where you could come in here, do a 20-minute lesson, and get a certificate, basically saying you practice in the same dojo that Elvis did.
Great.
Amazing. That's awesome.
And we have Eddie Rabbitt stuff. I've got Kenny Rogers, full outfits.
Wow.
So much stuff.
There's BJ Thomas, Tanya Tucker, Linda Thompson, Elvis. We have a couple of Elvis shirts in here. And a lot of these things, by the way, are for sale. And we have a lot of smalls that are for sale. We have Elvis ring, Elvis hair, guitar pick.
Wow.
We've got Johnny Cash stuff. We've got Johnny Cash shirt. So the way it works is I have a lot of friends that have large collections. So we basically bring things in here and we put them on display until they're sold. Yeah. And then we also switch them out. So this is my first version of the museum today. You know, what'll be happening after Elvis week after Elvis birthday in January, I'll start switching stuff up next year. But I'm currently curating the next version, if you will, of the museum, because I want it to change and I want it to be interesting. And a couple of other things. May I mention a couple of things?
Sure.
Please,
okay.
Please.
All right. So another thing is you mentioned Ginger. We have Dave.
Dave Hebler.
Dave Hebler's going to be here. He's a 10th degree grandmaster in Kempo, and he's in the videos of Elvis in this dojo. He's with him. So he'll tell you about stuff like that. And we also have a lady that most people would not know, but she's done some incredible stuff. And her name is Rose Clayton Phillips. And her last name sounds familiar because her husband's uncle was Sam Phillips.
Oh, amazing.
So Sam's brother was her husband's dad. And so she knew Sam really well. She knew Elvis. Elvis came to her house when she was 8 years old with Gene delivering groceries. That's
that's amazing.
That's
her
great.
father is the one that filmed all of the 56 stuff in Tupelo. So all that footage that you see, he was the cinematographer. And she was there with him at 14 years old. And she was, when he would finish a tape, take the reel out, she would put it in a box and mark it and hand him the next reel. And she sat next to the colonel's wife at that. And she wrote a book about Dr. Nick. She wrote a book about Elvis. Entertainment Tonight, if you've ever watched Entertainment Tonight, all the Elvis segments she produced. She wrote for Billboard magazine. She wrote for Rolling Stone magazine. So when I'm telling you, this lady is a historian. She's 85 years old. So if you want to learn about stuff, this lady knows stuff and is very lucid. And you wouldn't know that she's 85. In fact, we've even had a couple of people go, no way she knew Elvis. She doesn't look old enough. Well, 85. You know, but she donated loaned two things to the dojo. One of them is a coffee cup that Elvis handed to Dr. Nick. They were at Graceland. They were standing there, and Elvis was drinking coffee. He handed it to Nick. Well, Nick, after a while, Elvis didn't get it back. He just took it home. So when she was writing the book, he gave it to her and said, Elvis gave this to me. So we have that in here on display. Trey actually is the one that discovered that. So we're calling him now the real Elvis Cup guy because he discovered a real Elvis coffee cup. And then we have one more thing that Rose allowed us to put in here, and that is what did Elvis do at Lowe State? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Watch movies.
Well, he was an usher. Remember, he worked at Lowe State, right?
Okay.
So that was his first job, and he got fired from that job. We have the chair that Elvis was sitting in when he got fired.
Oh, wow. Are you serious?
Yeah. So her father worked in that industry. He worked in the movie industry, filming and all that, and also sound. When Lowe State got closed down before it was torn down, he went to it to retrieve some audio equipment from the movie theaters that they were going to use in some other theaters. And he had worked there as a kid too. So he was familiar with it. So he walks in the manager's office and sees the chair and takes it. About 3 weeks later, he ran into the guy that fired Elvis and told him that he had the chair. And he didn't know that he had fired Elvis in the chair, but he took the chair and just mentioned it to him. And the guy said, well, that's the chair I fired Elvis in. So we have the actual chair that Elvis got fired in as a teenager.
That's amazing. That really is amazing. You know, I'm fascinated with the Chisco Hotel, of course, and WHBQ. Do you have any artifacts from WHBQ and Dewey
I have one artifact. I actually have two, but I don't know where mine is. I'm ashamed to say that. I've got so much stuff that it gets lost in what I got was I have a square. The WHBQ was on the second floor, and Dewey called it the magazine level. It was the mezzanine level. But Dewey called it the magazine level. And the entrance to it was green marble, real thick green marble. And I have a square of that I got Wink Martindale to autograph. And Wink,
are you serious? Wow. How cool is that?
But it's not in here because I don't know where it's at. It's at my home somewhere, and I haven't found it. But I have another piece of the same tile, a chunk of it, in the shrapnel cabinet. And what I mean by shrapnel is if we went and did a story and a place got torn down, we try to get something from that place to put in the cabinet so we can point and tell that story, and we can tell this story and that story. So I have stuff from the Colonel's house. We have stuff, and it's not only Elvis. I have some tile from the first theater that James Brown performed in. We have a brick from James Dean High School. I have cement from inside the mausoleum where Elvis was entombed the first time. And the way that happened was I did a video about the mausoleum, of course, and we were doing bus tours. This would have been the year before last when Trey and I were doing bus tours. We pull up in front of the mausoleum, and the guy's standing out there, and they're restoring the mausoleum, and the supervisor over it said, "I've been waiting for you. I got something I want to show you."
I saw this video.
And so I get out and go in, and we go into the crypt and all that. And when he opened it, he pulled cement from inside of it out that would have been original to it, and I have it in the cabinet. Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah,
you have an Elvis autograph too from a library card from Tupelo. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually not a library card. It's actually in a library book.
In the book, right? The actual card that you sign on the inside.
That's right. So, I talk a lot about divine intervention because I believe that God ordained this, and I've said that before. And Trey and I were filming in Tupelo, Mississippi, and what we were working on was where Jesse Garen's buried, the twin.
Right.
And I speculated that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't in Priceville. And I do believe he's in Priceville, by the way. And I'm pretty confident I know where, but I'm just being straight up. I don't think I'm ever going to tell it because people don't know how to act and they'll go desecrate the grave or do stuff. So I'm probably never going to tell it. But I'm pretty confident I know. But anyway, we were standing over at Orville Bean's grave, which is another graveyard. And Orville Bean is who Vernon worked for at the time that Elvis was born. Right. He owned a dairy farm and a farm. And Vernon worked for him. So I speculated that maybe as his employer that had money, it may have been a thing where he was like, you could put him in our plot. We'll give you a spot. Right. But I found out later that Priceville, they didn't even charge for the spots. It was a thing. Families got plots and they didn't charge for them at all. So it wasn't a money thing with where he was buried.
Right.
But anyway, we're standing there and we're talking about the grave, and I'm talking to Trey, and we're just, mulling it over. And I've got my camera in my hand running, and a guy walks up. And what he would do is he would go down to the graveyard and walk around the graveyard during the heat of the day because it had tree cover. Mm-hmm. So he did that, and it was about a mile. It was a pretty good ways from his house. And so he walks up, and we're talking, and we talked for 20 minutes. And I did have my camera running in my hand, which is unusual. I don't normally do that. But for some reason, I just left it running, and we captured the audio of us talking about it. And he said, about 20 minutes in, he went, well, my teacher gave me a book when I went to Milam that Elvis signed when he went to the school. Miss Camp was my teacher, and Miss Camp was Elvis's teacher too.
Oh, wow.
And I said, really? Well, what did you ever do with it? And he said, well, I still have it. You want to see it? So he jumps in the Jeep with Trey and I. We go back down to his house. And what really blew my mind was he walked in the back and walked out with this book that his teacher gave him in 1956. He knew where it was.
Wow.
And he just walked right back there and got it and came out with it. And it wasn't like, and what makes me know that all this is real is he didn't know what we were doing. He didn't seek me out and say, hey, I have an Elvis book I want to sell. It was just lined up. The Lord lined it up. Okay. Wow. So anyway, we look at the thing, and he tells the story. He said at the end of the school year, this would have been the end of the school year in early 56, because late 56, Elvis went back to Tupelo and everybody knew who he was. This guy didn't know who Elvis was at the time. And he said that the last day of school, Miss Camp said, students, I've stuck a book on every student's desk, and you can take it home. One of them has a signature from Elvis Presley in it. And if you want it, take it home. If you don't want the book, leave it, and we'll throw it in the trash. So he took his book home. Later, he, of course, found out who Elvis was. So what's interesting about the book is, first, Miss Camp was Elvis's teacher, so it's not maybe Elvis signed it. He signed it. She would definitely know that it was his signature.
Right.
And in the book, above it, there's a girl's name, Mary Ann Smith. So I thought, That's interesting. And it was written in 2 different colors of ink, but just above Marianne is the name Jean written in pencil.
Mm-hmm.
And then to the right of the date by Marianne, it says, I like her sister. So when Elvis signed this, when he hit the I in Elvis, he pushed the I, the dot. He pushed it.
Right.
The dot on sister is pushed just the same. So it's Elvis's handwriting. So I found Marianne Smith was still alive in a retirement home in Tupelo. I went to the retirement home, knocked on her door, walked in and talked to her. And I said, Marianne, and I took the book with me to show her. In fact, Tennessee Ted bought it. I left that part out. We went back later, and my friend Tennessee Ted, which I have a lot of stuff in here that's part of his collection. Tennessee Ted bought the book, and I could have purchased it, but I wanted somebody that's their thing. I collect stories. You know, I need items like the ambulance and that kind of stuff, but I collect stories. So anyway, Marianne Smith, we went in there and we showed her the book, and I said, who is Jean? She said, that's my older sister. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, so how old was Jean in 1946, 1947? She said she would have been a junior or a senior in high school. So Elvis was crushing in the 6th or 7th grade on a junior or a senior. And so I just thought that was very telling. That's Elvis in a nutshell right there.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, I want to ask you about Circle G Ranch. I've been there. I actually got out and walked around the property there. There's a rumor saying that he lost his wedding ring on the property somewhere. Is that true?
Yes, and there's 2 different stories. One story is that Priscilla got mad and threw her wedding ring in the lake. That's one story. That's the story that I read many, many, many moons ago, and I thought that to be the correct story. In fact, if you watch the video that I did, the first video, I tell that story. Mm-hmm. Later, I found out that what had happened was they'd only been married a few weeks, and Elvis tied his wedding ring on a bandana on the horse, and the bandana came loose, and the ring fell out, and they searched for it. I talked to Billy Smith about this, and Billy told me he even alluded to maybe Elvis meant to lose the wedding ring. Okay, so, you know, he kind of said it might not have been so much of an accident, but they did look for it out there for a long time.
So it's never been found that we know.
To my knowledge, it's never been found. Now I'm a metal detector guy,
so I'm sure you've been there.
So I've been there, but now I've never gone out there and metal detected. But I mean, it's a big place. It would be hard to find. But that's not outside of the realm of possibilities that I would go out there and start searching for it. Yeah,
and it of course has a big cross, and the rumor is that Elvis saw that cross. It was a sign. That's why he bought the place. Is there truth to that?
Well, yes, there is some truth to that. So there's several rumors. I actually did a video with a guy named Jack Adams Jr. Jack Adams is who Elvis bought the Circle G from. And, of course, Jack Adams has passed away, and he was an airplane guy, Jack Adams was. In fact, at one time, he was the largest used airplane salesman in the world. He sold more used airplanes than anybody in the world. And he had an airport called Twinkletown Airport. In fact, the Circle G Ranch is actually the Flying Circle G Ranch. So if you ever look at the logos, you'll see wings on it. It was named the Flying Circle G Ranch by Elvis because of Jack Adams' connection to that. So I went and interviewed Jack Adams Jr., and he actually sells airplanes even to today. He's still currently in the airplane business. And, you know, the story was that this cross was erected because this family had lost a child that drowned in the lake. Not true. His dad was a Christian man, but he didn't go to church very often. So he told Jack that he wanted to do something for Jesus, something spectacular for Jesus that would be lasting forever, because he felt guilty for not going to church more and that kind of stuff. And there was actually quite a few versions of what's the word? Ideations, ideations, or of the cross. I've got photos of, and in the video, I show you photos of the cross in the middle of the bridge, and it was a giant metal cross, and the bridge was lit. So he started with it in the middle of the bridge, and then he moved it and built what's that thing, 60 feet tall, I think.
Yeah.
But the story is, Jack did not believe that, you know, the story was that like 3 o'clock in the morning, Elvis is driving. He sees this cross lit, decides to knock on Jack Adams' door. and make him an offer. But there's a couple of things wrong with that. Jack Adams Jr. said, to his knowledge, his dad never spent the night at the ranch. That's
Really?
first. They lived on Twinkletown Road, which is literally only blocks from Graceland. And Elvis knew him prior to this. He didn't meet him the first time there. He already knew Jack Adams. And so I think he didn't seem to believe any of that was factual. But I don't know. I've heard, I'm going to be honest on this. I don't know. I'm not saying that he didn't knock on the door in the morning,
right,
in the middle of the night, but I've never gotten a firm answer from anybody on that story that this is what happened.
If anyone would know, it would be you, Billy. That's for sure.
That's right.
I've tried, and I don't know. I can't figure it out, but I have tried.
One of the videos I really enjoy is you going to Dr. Hoffman's office and recreate the dentist appointment, 10 o'clock, right, on August the 15th.
Yes.
Where is that? I know you said it's about 30 minutes from Graceland, right?
Oh, no, it's only 9 miles from Graceland. It's not far.
So pretty close. So, okay.
And I've filmed inside of it. I haven't put that video out, but I will in the future put that out. I filmed inside where the dental chair would have been, where the office was. And that it's on a state drive. I think the address is 920 Estate, which is in what we would call East Memphis, which is the very high end place. It's where the iBank is.
Right.
You know the video, the photos of Elvis when he gets off the train and walks to the Audubon House.
Yes,
I did a video about that. That's on Poplar. The dentist office is maybe 2 miles from there, maybe 2.5 miles, not very far. Literally almost on the same road. Just one building off that road, off Poplar.
Wow! And I also enjoyed the video he did on the churches when he went to the East Trigg Church. The one of them burned down, right, at one point.
Trigg did. Yeah. I never got into Trigg Church, and I could kick myself because I've driven by. Trigg was on our bus tour. Trey and I would go there. In fact, that was the beginning of tour 2. We do tour 1, 2, and 3, and I think that's the beginning of 2. So we start there and we tell a story about Elvis's friend Ronald Smith that lived on Trigg. He lived down further.
Right.
And Elvis pushing his car when it ran out of gas about 20 blocks.
Wow.
And so Ronald tells us that story and shows us where it happens. And then Elvis steals gas from a gas station. So we'll show you all that. So because they didn't have any money to get gas. And I think Elvis was on the way to church over on Macklemore, which is only 1 block over.
Amazing.
But anyway, the East Trigg thing, we drove by there 1,000 times and I never saw anybody there. And I did not realize that there's a brick building beside it that is the church. It's the new church. So all I had to do was go in there and ask somebody.
Oh,
and
wow.
I never noticed that it was the church until the church burned down and I drove by and I saw the sign. I said, my God, I've never noticed that sign before. Why?
Wow.
And also where that's at, another Elvis story is Elvis on the motorcycle with Kathy Self is like a block from East Trigg Church. They're
right.
a block of each other.
I saw that. And that's sort of where they painted the pink Cadillac, right? Or something like that. It was not far from there. Is that the same video or is that a different video?
That's a different video. Now, the pink Cadillac was painted at the Cadillac dealership, the first one. There's 2. The first pink Cadillac was painted in the basement of Madison Cadillac or Southern Motors.
Oh, wow.
Where he walked through the parking lot in the jumpsuit. Now, I filmed inside the building before they tore it down. So I do have a video version of it. So we always have it, even though it's gone now.
Right.
Now, the other pink Cadillac was filmed or was painted, and we don't know if it was at the guy's house or if it was at his shop over on Summer. I've filmed the story both ways, but I've never put that story out. I even filmed with his family. He died young as well. But now, when you think of painting, traditionally, when we think of painting a car, we think of a guy with a mask on, with an air hose and the thing, and he's doing this. That's not the way these cars were painted back then. They would paint them literally with the paintbrush. And that doesn't mean that they couldn't paint cars like that.
Right.
But the type of paint that they used, they would put on with the paintbrush, and then you would basically buff it down into a sheen. So you could paint it anywhere. It didn't have, now we use a downdraft booth with suction to suck all the fumes out. That's not, these things could be painted outside back then.
Right. Wow. The original color was blue, of course, for everyone that does not know, right?
Gladys's was blue with a black top the first pink Cadillac was all gray.
Hmm.
Yeah, and there was actually a version of Gladys's when it was pink with the black top for about 2 months, and then it was pink with the white top.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now let's shoot over to Beverly Hills real quick. I just want to ask you about this. Of course, I've been to the Hillcrest house many, many times, and you tell a great story about that. Someone looking for Danny Thomas's house. Can you tell us about that real quick?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And this story was told to me by Sandy Miller. That's Sandy with an I. She lives in Las Vegas, and she's one of the most famous gate girls. Elvis had what we would call gate girls. And what that is girls that if Elvis was ever there, there was girls at the gate waiting for him to see him. Sandy Miller was one of them. There was one that lived here that we actually have a lot of her stuff in the museum. Because let me say this before I tell you that story is a lot of this museum is from a fan perspective, which is kind of overlooked in the history of Elvis. Because what we look at is what was Elvis doing? What was Elvis doing? What was Elvis doing? I wanted to look at what were the fans doing. So we have a lady, her name was Shantae Parrish when she was 16 years old. She's the one that took the very last photo of Elvis with Ginger and Lisa on August the 12th when they were coming back from the Southbrook Four, the very last movie that Elvis ever watched, The Spy Who Loved Me. Right. I have the camera back here that she took the photo with. I have the photos, and I have all of the stories around all of the things that she did. She lived in Ohio, and her mother at 16 years old would bring her here, and they would hang out at the gate for like weeks at the time and made friends with the guards. She got to swim in the pool and all these things. They would bring cabbage and bribe the guards, and they would let her do things. You know, they would let her go onto the grounds and all that. So it's a fascinating story. So she's a girl that would have been from Memphis. And something about the Sandy Miller story that she told me was that when Elvis was in Los Angeles and he left, the girls out there would call the girls in Memphis to say he'll be there in 3 days. He would leave here.
That's great.
Call out there and say he'll be there in 3 days. So Elvis was like, oh, I don't know how they know I'm coming, how they know I'm here, but they were always there waiting for him.
Yeah.
So anyway, Sandy was out there with a bunch of other girls, and she went on to date Charlie. And was actually, when Elvis died, she was in Graceland. You know, she wasn't there that day, but she was able to travel, go to the funeral, and spend time with Charlie. And she knew Elvis personally. She told me the last time she saw him was at the Chino Canyon house in Palm Springs. He was standing in the front door waving to her.
Oh, you serious?
The last time she ever saw him. Wow. That would have been early 77. You know, he celebrated his birthday in January at that house in Chino Canyon.
Yeah, I've been to that house. What a great house.
Yes, it's a great house. And so what Sandy told me was she was standing out there with Elvis and a bunch of girls standing around. Tour bus pulls up and says, do you know which house is Danny Thomas's house? And Elvis said, yeah, it's that one right down there at the end of the cul-de-sac. And it was literally, if you go past the Hillcrest house, you've been there. It's just a cul-de-sac. And
right. It goes around, yeah.
30,000 square feet, giant. It's been torn down, by the way. It's gone.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, it's just a lot there right now. They haven't built back, but they will build.
Right.
So anyway, the tour bus goes down there, and the people hop out and they take pictures and all that kind of stuff. They jump back in the bus and they pull up and they roll the window down and they say, "Has anybody ever told you look like Elvis?" And he said, "Man, I get that stuff all the time." And they said, "I appreciate it."
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's funny.
You know, but I could talk to you for like 4 hours, but I don't want to keep you.
Well, we'll have to do this again, man. I'm game anytime you want to do it.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
I know one of the last things that you just one of the videos I just saw you did with Billy Stanley. You went to the movie theater, right, and recreated the last movie that Elvis saw, The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yes.
That looked so interesting and looked like so much fun.
It was a lot of fun. Now it was, and I can't or won't talk about some of the goings on, and behind the scenes there's some goings on that happened during that time that were it's quite stressful, but what we did basically is I guess it would have been it was 2022, so that would have been 45 years to the day.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm trying to remember, and I guess it would be 45 years to the day that Elvis was in that movie theater watching Spy Who Loved Me. We reenacted that. We had a screen in the exact, it is the exact movie theater.
Amazing.
I found 8 witnesses. I found Dana that worked there as an usher that night.
Wow.
So he goes in and tells me, so it's definitely that movie theater. No matter what anybody says, it happened there. So there's some people that try to say it happened at a different theater, and I promise you it happened in that theater. So anyway, we set up and we did the way the Memphis Mafia deal was they could go to the concession stand and get everything they wanted. So we did it like that. Your ticket got you unlimited, whatever you wanted at the concession stand, popcorn, drinks, candy. So we tried to make it just a cool night. And we honored Shantae Wood, which was the 16-year-old that took the photo of Elvis coming back from the theater that night.
Right.
Because she was actually invited to the movie that night by Charlie Hodge. But what happened was her and her mother waited for Elvis to leave. He said, just wait till he leaves and follow him to the theater. But now you got to get there before the door closes, because when the door closes, that's it. Nobody comes in. And it turns out that the back door that she told me was the door is the door. And as soon as you step through it, there's a door. Literally, you walk in the door and there's a door right there. There's not that much distance between the two doors.
Right.
And that door goes into that theater. So what would happen is they would hold those two doors open. Elvis would go in, the door shut. That's it. And you can't get in it from outside. It's blocked, so you can get out, exit, but you can't get in. So anyhow, her mother would not run stoplights and Elvis would. So when they got there, the doors were all shut. And I have a photo in the cabinet that she took of the Stutz that night, backed up behind the building. They're standing there looking at it. And that photo happened that night. And what happened was the security guards found out there were some people trying to get in the movie theater through a grocery store. There was a grocery store that had a door. It's a mall. So there was a grocery store that had a door that they would shut off after the mall closed. And they tried to get through that to get to the movie theater. And when the security guards found out they were doing that, they decided to go around the whole building, and they found Shantae and her mother and another girl in the back.
Wow.
So they told them, look, you can't be back here. You've got to go. For security reasons, you can't stay. So her mother said, I know you're disappointed we didn't get in the movie, but what we'll do is let's go back to Graceland. You get your camera and you go sit on the sidewalk and you wait for Elvis. And she's actually beyond the gate. So the gates weren't shut. The gates were open.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond the gate, maybe 20 feet on, they got the little sidewalk there. She sat on the sidewalk, or the curb, I should say.
Right.
She sat on the curb. And she said, when I see Elvis, I'm going to blow my horn. You stand up and you look through the viewfinder. You don't look left or right. You step forward and you look. And as soon as you see him, you hit the button. And she did. And that's the photo that I have in the cabinet.
Wow.
Her mother was smart enough to copyright that photo in October of 77. And she's actually, the first year she sold in 78, she sold 6,000 copies of it.
Wow.
It's amazing.
For $1 a piece. She would mail order. Back then, I have an ad back there, a newspaper ad, where people would buy it. They would pay a self-addressed stamped envelope and pay $1. And so she made $6,000 on it. And, but what's interesting is Sony BMG used it on the back of a CD set, and she sued them and won.
Yeah.
Stanley used it in his book, and she sued him and won.
Oh,
and
wow.
so it's a real deal. And what an amazing story of, I call her the ultimate Elvis super fan. I've got stuff where she dug through the trash at Graceland. I've got a plate that she got out of the trash can.
Are you serious? Oh, wow.
I've got a newspaper from August the 4th, 1977, where she had a friend with her, and when she got the plate, she broke it and gave her friend half of it. And she said she doesn't know why she did that. And she tore the newspaper in half. So I have half of it. And what's crazy is the half that we still have, this is divine providence again, the half that I have in the cabinet back there shows that The Spy Who Loved Me was playing at the Southbrook 4. It's in the newspaper.
Wow.
And I know the story that some people, and I'm not going to say who said this, but the question was always, did Elvis watch Star Wars? And the answer was said by some Memphis Mafia people that they couldn't get Star Wars for Elvis to watch. Well, the answer was that's not true. It had been playing at the Memphian for 2 months.
Oh, really?
And we all know that the Elvis went to the Memphian, and it's actually in that newspaper too. The Memphian thing with Star Wars is in the paper.
So did he see it? Did Elvis actually see it?
No, he did not. But it was not because they couldn't go see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Amazing stuff. And it's amazing how you track down all these great people, like the pharmacist, Dr. Black, and he had the cult Oh my God, he had the Colt gun, which is amazing. So many great videos. You have your own YouTube channel, right? Billy the Spa Guy.
If you do Spa Guy, if you search Spa Guy with a space, Spa space Guy and Elvis, I've got over 700 videos. I've been all over the world.
And they are so great.
Paris.
Yeah, they are.
Very interesting. If you're an Elvis fan, you're going to absolutely love it. I mean, you've been to Germany, right? I mean, you went to all these places where Elvis was when he was young, when he was in the army, when he did the movies.
All the army stuff in Germany. I filmed the stuff in Paris where he went there with Rex Mansfield. I mentioned I knew Rex and Charlie and all them. And Red. I filmed all the Colonel stuff in the Netherlands. The Colonel was born in Breda, Holland, or Breda. It's really not Holland. It's really the Netherlands.
Right.
But I've been to the spot where the Colonel was born, where his house was.
Oh, wow.
And I told all those stories. So what I do, and, there's a lot of people that want to exclude, they go, well, I don't like that person or this person or that person. But, you can't start taking pieces of a puzzle away and have a complete puzzle.
Exactly.
You've got to include everybody. And some people are not going to be honest. Some people are going to tell a different version of the story, but you got to let them tell their story. And once you let them tell their story, you use an exponential look at all of the history, if you will, and that's how you figure out who's telling the truth and who's not. But if you start excluding pieces, you can't take an exponential look at anything. Exactly. You've got to allow everybody in as part of it. And I just don't believe in this excluding people that I don't like thing. I don't understand that. Right. If you went to Walmart and bought a 1,000-piece puzzle and you got it home and put it together and 3 of the pieces were missing, you'd be mad.
Exactly.
So I'm trying to I'm trying to put the Elvis puzzle together to make him a real human, and so you can understand this complex human being. And I'll say this: if you take the music out of the story, you take the movies out of the story, you just look at this human being. Who was this guy that shot TVs and had an entourage and women threw themselves at him? He gave away cars and houses and had airplanes and cool jewelry and jumpsuits and shook his leg in the 50s. Who was this guy? It's just the story's fascinating on its own. And the more we dig, the more we find just interesting things about it. And I'll give you an example. We're okay, right, on time?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure. As long as you want.
Okay, I'll give you another example. And Trey recently found this. The guy that wrote 2 probably of the best Elvis books ever written, the most accurate Elvis books, at least the first one. Come on, Billy. His name is escaping me right now. Careless Love and Last Train to Memphis.
Okay. Is that Peter?
Peter Grilloni. Thank you. Thank you. So Peter donated a lot of his archives, the things, his interviews and different things from back then to a college. So Trey went to that college and went into the archives and started finding things. And he found where Peter had interviewed Connery. And Connery said that, you think of Connery as just being Elvis's sensei, right? Mm-hmm. He told Peter that Elvis called him one time and said, hey, my girlfriend is driving me crazy. Can you go tell her that I need like a few days away from her? So he would get Connery to go do that kind of stuff for him.
Really?
Yeah. What? Whoever thought that? And another thing that he said was if Elvis was in the hospital and was in depression or that kind of stuff, they would call him. Dr. Dick would have Connery come in and pep talk Elvis and go, Elvis, you're Mr. Tiger. Tigers don't lay in the bed and feel sorry for themselves. You need to get up. Wow. What are you doing? So they would call him in to pep talk Elvis. And that's after these photos in this building happened. This is after Elvis is no longer taking karate from Connery. He was still doing those kinds of things.
Right. Wow. Yeah. So all those great photos of Connery and Elvis were pretty much in that building, right where you are.
That's right. The ones on the red carpet were all taken in this building. That's a fact. And Connery actually set that up. We own the negatives to those and also the rights to those. We leased the rights, if you will, from Connery's family to be able to offer the photos in a historical way and also things that are Connery related, like the patches. Connery's the creator of the TCB karate patch. You know,
Oh yeah, I
he
love
owns
that
the
patch.
copyright to
Actually, I
that.
have a few copies of that patch.
Okay, so he owns the copyright to that patch. And so I have the rights to those kinds of things from the family. And of course, they get paid for certain things, you know, that kind of stuff, because I want to take care of Congaree's family. And his son is a very good friend of mine, Young. And Congaree's wife is very nice. And I have a lot of Congaree stuff in here. I have his passport from when he came to America in 1964. I've got all of his driver's licenses. I've got his naturalization papers. I have his Bible. I have his belts, his last belts, his gis, all original stuff. I have his drawings of things like the certificates where he hand drew what he wanted them to be in pencil and stuff like that. So just an amazing man, very artistic, very forward thinking. And I have all of those things in here.
Wow.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
Tom, what do you have?
You know, it's amazing to me, Billy. You are a true historian. I mean, you're willing to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly. You're not going to eliminate things because of, you know, politically correct or anything like that. And that's what I admire most about you.
Well, I appreciate that, Tom. Now, it doesn't get me in a lot of things, but it excludes me from some things. But truth is important, and I value truth. You know. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have one quick question from one of our listeners, Carl Lembo here, and he's asking a question about the book index card. And he said, did you get that from Russ Howe?
No. And it wasn't an index card. Now, those are out there. What they're talking about is actual library cards. And the last one that I saw, Russ had those, but I saw, who did I see with that? I actually held one. And somebody had it, and I'm trying to think of who it was that showed it to me that owned it. But there's several of those out there. But those are after that date and time, okay? So what I've got is the early library books had the piece of paper in there, not the envelope. And what I'm talking about is if you young people are not going to know what I'm talking about, but back in the day, when you went in the book, there was a piece of paper in the back of it that was stuck on there that it wrote that you could sign your name in the day you would sign it out. Then they went to the version where there was an envelope with a slide card in there. So what Russ had was the actual cards. And so I saw one here in Memphis probably in 2019. But I don't remember who showed it to me that owned it. It was a lady from my memory, but I don't recall who it was. But I know Russ and Bud Glass; those guys had a lot of those things. But there is a card. If you go to the Tupelo Library, they have a card in the library that Elvis. They have one of the cards on display in the library. They do.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. You know, you hear so much about Beale Street and Sun Records. Of course, Elvis in the early days. Did he ever go back down there and hang out on Beale Street in the later years that you know of? Okay,
so can I be honest with you about the early years?
Yeah.
Okay. Beale Street was not a place that white people went in 1954, 1955. That's not a thing.
Really?
You know, the way the movie was portraying it is absolutely not accurate at all. That unless you knew somebody, and what I mean is if you were going to go to a club like Club Handy, like they alluded to in the movie.
Right. He was hanging out at the Club Handy.
Know someone that was going to be your sponsor and then take you down to Club Handy. And that's the way it's shown in the movie is just not factual. And we know that for a lot of different reasons, but one of them is the guy I mentioned earlier. His name was Ronald Smith. And Trey is the one that found Ronald. And Ronald is actually who got Elvis his first audition for a band with the guy over at the Hi-Hat Club. His name was Eddie Bond. So what happened is Ronald told us that he ran into Elvis and Dixie at the Cotton Carnival, which was kind of a fair that was downtown Memphis. He ran into him down on Main Street at Cotton Carnival. And Elvis said, Ronald, do you know anybody that may be looking for a lead singer for a band? And he said, well, Eddie Bond is looking for people out at the Hi-Hat Club. I'm going to be there playing tonight. Come out there. God bless you. I'm playing tonight. Come out and I'll introduce you to Eddie and you can audition for him. So Elvis went out there and auditioned. And this is told to us by Ronald.
Right.
He said that he saw Elvis, he auditioned, and Eddie said, Elvis, I don't think you're a fit for here, but I have a club across the street. Go over there and sing for a little bit and tell me what you think. And it was an old, it was train cars that they had put together and created a bar for old World War II vets. Okay.
Right.
And so he went over there, Elvis did, and played for a period of time. And then he said he saw him coming back from across the street and sitting in Eddie Bond's car out in the parking lot. And he sat out there and talked to him for about an hour and left. And he asked Elvis later what happened. And he said, Eddie wanted me to sing over across the street with those old guys. And I didn't want to do that. I want to be here in the Hi-Hat Club. So I just told him no. And so Ronald said that a little bit later, just, a short time later, of course, That's All Right Mama's on the radio. And he's riding with Eddie in the car. That's All Right Mama's on the radio. And he says, that's the guy that you told. He said, well, could you call him? So they pulled over to a payphone and called Elvis and tried to hire him, and he was already, But anyway, the reason I told you that was Ronald was in the middle of all this. Ronald hung out with Elvis at Lauderdale. Him and Elvis did shows that we've never heard of before at the life insurance building. In fact, Elvis did a show at the life insurance building with a Martin guitar that was stolen from Eddie Arnold.
Oh, he's serious?
Burnett Brothers. They stole it from Eddie Arnold, and Elvis used it to play a show at the life insurance building. And he said he dropped the guitar. Elvis did. He was so nervous he kept dropping the guitar. And I don't think they had a strap, and he was trying to hold it, and he kept dropping it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
This stuff that you've never even heard of any books. But Ronald, man, he took us around town, took Trey around town, and showed us so many things that we've never heard of before, including the story about Elvis running out of gas in front of his house going to church and then pushing it 20 blocks. And it was that 42 Lincoln Zephyr, and he pushed it, and he showed us where the gas station was that Elvis stole the gas. He helped him do it.
Wow. That's amazing.
So he was and he's the one that told us. We rode through town. We rode around with him. And we got down close to Bill Street around where Lansky's was and all that. And we were talking about Elvis being down on Bill Street. He said, guys, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
White people were not on Bill Street in the 50s. That's not a thing. I promise you that didn't happen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Really amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, so many great stories about Elvis, and you pretty much know all of them, which is
no, and look, I'm learning stuff every day, and there's things that I think are correct that I found out later are not correct.
Yeah.
So it's a work in progress. I have to trust my sources. Sometimes they're not always accurate, but we try to learn. And if I figure out that I've got something wrong, I adjust it the next time around. We try to fix it. But I'm in search of, and Trey, we're in search of true history stories, and we want it to be as accurate as it can be because Elvis deserves it to be accurate. I don't want anybody telling my story when I'm gone, if anybody cared to, and it be like the Elvis movie. And I hate to hate on the Elvis movie, but guys, that thing was maybe 20% factual. And in my opinion, it was a disservice to Elvis because it could have been epic. It could have been, Elvis did not need a rewrite. Tell the story like it happened. That's all he needs. And they decided to kind of artsy-fartsy it, and Elvis doesn't need that. Just tell the story.
Exactly.
He had an opportunity to make it epic, and in my opinion, Lerman messed it up.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. As I said, I could talk to you for like 4 hours. I mean, you are so interesting to talk to. And if people can't make it down to Memphis, you have a website where they can actually go on and buy some of the memorabilia from the Karate Man Dojo.
TigerManMuseum.com will get you on the website. And I've got a lot of new stuff. I wish I had one in my hand. I would show it to you. I had a challenge coin made, which a lot of people like challenge coins. It's got Connery on the front in that famous jump.
Oh, cool.
It's got stuff about the Tiger Man. It's got Tiger Man stuff on the back. They literally just arrived. So we'll have those. And I've got gis. I've got T-shirts. In fact, I just got photos of the T-shirts we had made. I'll get them tomorrow, and they'll be on the site. I love Spa Guy T-shirts with the Tiger Man logo on the back, and I hate Spa Guy T-shirts made. I'm taking a page out of the Colonel's book. You know, he did "I Love and I Hate Elvis." So
right. Yeah, I saw that. You have those T-shirts.
So we've got that. I've got we do original carpet from the building
Wow.
with the certificate. We do. I've got all kinds of tiger jewelry and that kind of stuff. I've got nunchucks for the kids. And I have some other cool memorabilia, and I mentioned we sell real stuff. So are you a Scotty Moore fan at all?
Of course, I know you have rocks from his house, and they're signed, right?
I have that. Yeah, and I knew Scotty very well. I sold autographed stuff from Scotty. But
I'll be putting an order in soon, so don't worry.
Is when Elvis went in the Army in '58, he started a record company called it's not gonna come to me. And he signed a guy named Thomas Wayne. And Thomas was Johnny's guitar player, Luther Perkins' brother. His name was Thomas Wayne Perkins.
Right.
And he had a hit called Tragedy. Scotty told me that was the only hit he ever had, and it was Fernwood is the name of the record company.
Mm-hmm.
So when Elvis went in the Army in '58, Scotty had to do something to make a living, so he started a record company called Fernwood. We have all of the canceled checks for Fernwood.
Oh, how cool!
So I have checks that Scotty wrote to himself, endorsed on the front as the signer, and endorsed on the back. Wow. I've got checks, so he signed it 3 times. I've got checks that Thomas Wayne signed. Thomas Wayne's been dead a long time. I've got one check that Thomas endorsed on both ends of the check on the back.
Oh, wow.
And I've got checks that all these other famous session players autographed. They signed. So it was checks written to them for playing a session, and they signed the back. Right. So we're slowly getting those on the website. So I've got stuff like that. We've got show prints. We've got trying to think of what else.
You got some really cool stuff. I've been going through it, man. Really great stuff.
Yeah, just things that I think are interesting. Tigers, of course, for the kids, plush tigers. Keys, and you can buy the patches. We have all the different patches.
Wow,
just a plethora of stuff. Yeah,
amazing. And you were also a singer, and you went on tour, and you had an album. Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I played music I'm 60 years old, and I played music. I started when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
So I played music pretty regularly for about 40 years. I was the lead singer in a country band.
Oh, wow.
And I moved to Nashville. That's why I moved to Nashville for country music to sing. Right. And never panned out. But, when you come to Nashville, everybody that's good comes to Nashville. Right. So in order to stand out in Nashville, you're going to have to be real good because there's people standing on street corners that are unbelievable,
Yes, absolutely.
Playing for coins,
Yes.
But anyway, I was fortunate enough to do a Christian album, and I was on tour with the band called Jackson Heights. And all those guys a lot of them were from my hometown in North Carolina. I wasn't born there, but it was kind of the place where I grew up. So I call it my hometown, Kinston, North Carolina.
Right.
They're actually from the Dixie Melody Boys band is what the name of it was back in the day. There's a Southern gospel group called the Dixie Melody Boys. And that was one of the guys' father was in the Dixie Melody Boys. So They created a country version calling it the Dixie Melody Boys band. And they played a lot. They had huge records and really did a lot. So I toured with them. I was their opener, if you will, and I rode the bus. And I started doing so much in the video world that I had to make a choice. And so I wasn't able to continue that, but it was fun while it lasted to go out and tour. But I played a lot of music, and my first band, I played drums, and I've got stuff from that in the cabinets back here, photos of me and newspaper clippings and all that. And I have that. Wow. And I played bass and keyboard in a Rush cover band. I was Getty. I don't know if you know the band Rush, but
right.
Sure.
So I was Getty. I sang all the high parts and played the bass and played the keyboard.
Wow.
And then I played college rock as a bass player for a long time. And then I played country. I played guitar in a country band. So I've done a little bit of everything. I've been very, very fortunate. No real success with music to speak of, but I've had a good time. I played bass in my church band for about 10 years. Right. And so I got to play out with them and play with a lot of cool people there, a lot of very famous people there. So I've had a lot of fun. got to sing with Jonathan Cain from Journey, the keyboard player from Journey.
Wow.
I got to do shows with him and just all kinds of people. So I've been very fortunate.
Well, I love the song, "The Man I Could Have Been."
Yes, well, I appreciate that. Yeah,
Great song. Great song.
that whole album is me and my friend Dave Marshburn, and that was actually Dave's idea. But you know, I was that man. You know, I changed my life, started following Christ, and it's been a life changer for me. And it's important. There's nothing more important than that.
So
and that
awesome.
song is kind of about me, you know, and about Dave as well. You know, we both kind of had a similar path. He's a much better songwriter than me, so I give him credit for most of those. It was really him more than me, but I did that with my producer was a guy named Trey Corley. Trey was the band director. If you've ever watched the Mike Huckabee show, you know,
Sure,
they
he
have
was, yeah,
right?
of course.
Trey was the guy that you see playing the keyboards. He's the band director.
He was a band director, right?
And
Yeah.
the band at my church, pretty much.
Wow, how cool is that?
Wow.
And
So awesome.
and his brother was a really good friend of mine, and he played all the piano on that record. He's passed away; he had cancer, but
Wow.
he was a really good friend, Sam Corley. And I love the Corley family; they're great people and unbelievable musicians. I mean, like top of the top of the top. Yeah, just amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, real piece of memorabilia that I have, I'll tell you real quick, is back in the day when I started this show, I was at a New York radio station called WPLJ, and I interviewed Sam Phillips. Knox Phillips actually set up the interview for me, which was really awesome. And he sent me a signed picture, and I have a signed picture of Sam Phillips. So it was
That
one of
is
my
very
great,
cool.
yeah,
Wow.
one of my
Legend. Yeah.
yeah. And I had
Yeah.
George Klein on, of course.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was when I wanted to become a radio personality, I flew to Memphis. I was fascinated with George Klein and, of course, Elvis. And I went up to, I think George was working at WEZI up there on Mount Moriah.
Yeah.
And I went, and I must have been about 18 years old, and I knocked on the door, and I just wanted to meet him. I never met him before. And he was on the air. He came out, and he was the nicest guy. He took me for a tour of the station, and it started a 30-year relationship. I mean, we kept in touch with George. I used to hang out with him over when he was working at the casino, up in Tunica. Great guy. Worked on the Elvis Hour a little bit because when I continued doing the show for many, many years, and I would interview like Wayne Newton and Tom Jones and Engelbert and all these big famous people, and I would always ask them about Elvis. So I would send George the clips of me talking about Elvis with the celebrities, and if he liked it, he would use it on the Elvis Hour. I know that they still use on Elvis Radio. I interviewed Johnny Cash about the $1 Million Quartet, and I still hear it sometimes on Elvis Radio. They still use it, which is pretty awesome. That's really cool stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I love history, man. And sadly, I got to this a little later than I probably should have. So I didn't get to meet a lot of those guys. Now, Johnny lived in my town. I live in Hendersonville, where Johnny Cash.
Oh, do you really? Yeah, I know. I've been to the house there. Amazing. Yeah. Johnny was great. I know you were telling a story on one of your videos. I think you were talking to Carl Perkins' son, the video I saw. Yep. But Johnny told me a little bit of a different story when I interviewed him about I had asked him, I said, how did that go down? And he was pretty much, he was like, well, it was a Carl Perkins recording session. He goes, and Jerry Lee Lewis was on piano. And he said, Elvis and his girlfriend came in. But according to you, Johnny wasn't even there till later on, right?
That's right. Johnny, if you go back and listen to the recording, you don't even hear Johnny in the recording. He wasn't there. He came in for a photo op and left for a birthday party.
Wow. So that was the story he told me on tape. Yeah. So we played that.
By the way, that guitar that was used on those sessions, the electric. Now, eventually, Carl moved from the electric over to his brother's acoustic Martin. So that's what you see in the photographs. But the first 18 songs are an electric guitar. That's a 19. Wow. They were there doing Matchbox. They were recording Matchbox, and Jerry was a session player. Nobody they didn't know Jerry. He was there. He was paid $15. He was brand new at Memphis Recording, and he was there to play on that session. Elvis didn't know him. None of the guys knew him. That's probably the first time any of them ever met.
Amazing.
And, what happened is that guitar it was a 53 Les Paul that he painted blue after Blue Suede Shoes. He painted the top of it blue. I actually have that guitar for sale.
Oh, wow.
Played on the first 18 tracks of that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of history here, a lot of history from Memphis.
Absolutely. Sure. That's what they call the $500,000 Quartet.
Yeah, I heard you say that. That's funny. Well, anyway, thank you so much, Billy. Thank you for all your time. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, man. You spent so much time with me. Thank you so much. I
All
really
good, guys.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Billy.
And
Appreciate it.
you want to just hang a second? I'm going to wrap this show up. Tom, thank you so much for
Thank you, Jimmy.
participating, as you always do, my co-host. Coming up on Celebrity Spotlight Monday, more the incredible Olivia Newton-John tribute artist is going to be here. She has a big show coming up on the, I believe, the 27th of September in Long Island. We're going to talk all about that on Monday, and that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time here on Celebrity Spotlight. And so many great guests, too, on the way. I think we have Freddie Cannon's on the way. We have somebody from The Sopranos is coming up. A lot of great people here on Celebrity Spotlight. And thank you so much to Billy the Spa Guy for taking all this wonderful time to talk to me. So much history there in Memphis. I mean, he knows pretty much everything about Elvis. He's an amazing Elvis historian. He knows everything about all celebrities, never mind Elvis. But thank you so much, Billy. I appreciate it so much.
I'm honored, guys. And thank y'all for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And I just want to mention everybody that's listening out here. Carl Limbo, thank you so much. Bobby Scapito is watching out there, old friend of mine. Angela Giuliano Renner is out there. I know Angela. Thank you so much. Who else? Anne-Marie Wislow. Cindy, the producer, did a great job tonight.
Yes.
Fantastic telling me what's going on and who's listening. Thank you so much, Cindy. And we will
And
catch you.
I'm sorry, we got Donna Marie from Staten Island, too.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Anybody else, Tom?
Carl Lembo, we got
Carl. Yeah.
And your mom, of course, who listens every week.
And Brad Siegel, of course. Team Siegel's out there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on Celebrity Spotlight. Thanks, Billy the Spa Guy. And thank you, Tom. We will catch you Monday again with more on Celebrity Spotlight. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.